I'm sure you've heard the phrase, Big Brother is always watching. Maybe you've heard the law described as being Orwellian, but have you ever stopped to ask why such terms exist? They come from a novel written 76 years ago, about a year that has already passed, yet they still shape the way we talk about power and control. But why is it these terms will not die? Why do we feel a sinking feeling at the notion of people burning books? And how is it that novels written so long ago, imagining dark and oppressive futures, still have relevance? My friends, welcome to Downright Books. Today, I want to show you why dystopian fiction still matters. The year is 1949. World War II has left a tragic mark across Europe. The cost of freedom is high. Joseph Stalin leads the USSR in the shadow of a now divided Germany, and one small book makes one of the biggest splashes short of the Bible. George Orwell publishes 1984, a book far ahead of its time, one that predicts the future in chilling ways. It stands as a rule book for the extreme ends of authoritarianism, not in acting it out, but in recognizing the signs. The kind that often begin as small compromises and escalate to something much worse. It is immediately banned in the USSR. For those who know, the words are almost a reality. But what does Orwell's masterwork show us? If it was relevant in the past, why is it still relevant today? In 1984, we step into a world where Big Brother watches every move, where language itself is twisted into newspeak, and where truth is rewritten until nothing is certain. It is a warning, and such warnings still hold prominence. Truth can be rewritten, now more than ever. The internet serves as much as a factual reference as it does a manipulator. Screens, much like in 1984, display content, but the subtlety of which they can distort truth is sometimes very hard to notice. In Orwell's story, the danger is obvious. In our world, it's far more subtle. And that's Orwell's point. The real danger is not what we see, but what we fail to notice. In Orwell's world, surveillance was everywhere. In our modern world, decades after that book's publication, we could say the same. In some countries, surveillance is near impossible to avoid. CCTV cameras pepper modern streets like leaves in the autumn. And the justification is always the same: safety, protection, order. But Orwell warned us that surveillance was a double-edged sword. When watching becomes constant, fear does the rest. This was even more apparent during the COVID pandemic. You didn't need a guard on every street corner when people began to police themselves. Here's a thought. What if the pandemic had ended, but the restrictions on your freedoms were extended indefinitely? Do you see how quickly liberty can be lost? Should a tyrant take charge, you may find that change happens very suddenly. And that was Orwell's real warning. Authoritarianism isn't something that happens over there. It can take root anywhere. You can find the seeds if you look for them. And if those seeds are left to grow, 1984 becomes less a fiction and more a reality. Orwell's world is terrifying because of how obvious the control is. But what if control was subtle? What if it felt good? That is the world of Aldous Huxley, imagined in the novel Brave New World. Picture a society overflowing with choice, endless in its pursuits of pleasure, and drugged to ecstasy at the first hint of sadness. Here you find yourself in a dystopia disguised as a utopia. Let's take a closer look. How would you feel if sadness could be brushed under a large rug? In fact, not just sadness, but any negative emotion you might feel. You take a pill, and everything goes away. There's no shame in doing so. Everybody does it. It sounds good to a certain extent, doesn't it? But when you stop to think what the cost is, you may change your mind. Without negative emotions, without hardship, without sadness, no one develops as an individual. And that's exactly as intended. Their choices appear like freedoms, but they are empty and superficial. Written before 1984, Brave New World came onto shelves in 1932 and told a very different tale, one that many readers found disturbing. Upon publication, the reception was mixed, and in Ireland it was outright banned. Banning books is something we often frown upon now, but you'll notice it's a running theme with such influential works. But what was all the controversy about? Well, in the past, and still somewhat today, pleasurable pursuits, what could be called hedonistic pursuits, can often evoke a strong reaction. The people living in Brave New World engage in promiscuity, drug use, and endless consumerism. This is a society that scoffs at the very notion of mothers and fathers. Its inhabitants are bred for singular purposes and raised in bottles. They're not born at all. Their society is divided into classes that are assigned long before they ever existed. The system has been perfected, and few know of the restrictions they have. They are blinded by the illusion of true free will. The reality is their life was decided long ago. They have no ownership of their identity. So how does this book speak to the modern world, and is it important nearly 100 years since publication? Well, see for yourself. In Brave New World, consumerism is highly encouraged. As the book says, ending is better than mending. There are no deep relationships. Intimacy is replaced with casual hookups. It is expected and celebrated, and so two people never truly grow with one another. The world is full of vacant shells, and this clearly brings distress deep down as emotion is highly suppressed. There is no art, there is no soul, there is no need except that which brings superficial highs. This world to me appears like a giant night out, but truly, what do we really remember in life if not love, if not passion, if not identity? No such things are gained through fleeting pleasures, and thus nothing is learned by the people of this society except what is preconditioned at birth. So while the society of Brave New World may be enticing to those looking for a Las Vegas-style night out, living within it would become a chore, an empty vacuum sucking out all meaning. Huxley very accurately spoke of a world where pleasure ruled the day, where that enticing notion let control slip by so very unnoticed. And that brings us to the final book I want to discuss today. Let's imagine a world where firemen don't extinguish fires. Instead, they start them. They burn the very items I'm discussing today. Books. Published in 1953, as the Cold War loomed, Fahrenheit 451 was praised for its social commentary, especially its parallels to censorship in the real world, where books were banned and ideas silenced under the banner of safety. What's remarkable is that all these years on, much like the prior two books we've discussed, we still see early warning signs today. Knowledge is power, and without it, nobody knows better. The people of Ray Bradbury's society do not care for books. They've been told to believe these items are unnecessary, even harmful. Instead, they sit at home, enveloped by screens that fill their walls and soaking up shows they call family while forgetting their own. Thinking is considered dangerous, and the little understanding some do have is used only to enforce the narrative. Firemen burn knowledge, mechanical hounds enforce obedience, and all the while people believe they are safe. Technology is a big part of this dystopia, but it is not used to inform, it is used to detract, to numb those who dare to think. Endless content, stuck indoors. Are you seeing the parallel here? Written in 1953, and speaking far too deeply on modern culture, this book feels more like a premonition, and how shocking that is. Here, everyone is distracted not by ecstasy, not enforced via control, but instead through content, through the idea that thinking is wrong, through labeling people for being against the norm. But why don't people revolt? Why don't they read? The answer is, it doesn't interest them. They've become conditioned by the content they watch. Their brains feel uncomfortable with thinking, uncomfortable with purpose, with meaning. They are perpetually distracted, and the hole is so deep few ever get out. It's easy to see such early signs today. The reality is people don't read, they just ingest. Statements are written for them, content is doctored, dopamine is the hit. At least it was. After a while, no one knows any better. Why read when it takes so much time? Why think when it can make you feel uncomfortable? Why not just sit indoors and watch an endless feed of mindless content? The answer is the very book we are discussing, the ways in which the uninformed can be controlled through the dumbing down of society. They are fed what they are told they need, and they consume it like starving children. So why do dystopian books still matter? Each book I've mentioned today serves to demonstrate a future where the signs are ignored, where if society is left unchecked, Methods of control, sometimes subtle, sometimes brutal, weave their way into daily living. These books were not written simply to predict the future, they were written to warn us. Whatever may be in store, we should be vigilant, we should move forward with our eyes open. None of these scenarios happen overnight, and none of them will ever be a true depiction of what may come to pass, but in each we can find elements, markers to be noted. We have mentioned 3 books here in a plethora of hundreds, and while these books may be uncomfortable, they are necessary. They make you appreciate what is around you, yet be cautious of what may be ahead. They make you see that control need not be brutal nor obvious, and in each a communication of speech is distorted. When we cannot argue with words, we lose something very dear. There is a reason these books were banned, because they make you stop and think. They make you question, and any regime of power fears most what it cannot control, the words of its people. My friends, thank you very much for watching.